Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to I Care About You. I'm Juliana J, and this is a podcast where we navigate life's challenges with compassion, curiosity, and care. Today, we're diving into something we all face and often struggle with: change, specifically extended or chronic change. And man, is 2025 coming in with a whole lot of change for some of us. I'm starting to feel like that is the mantra for this year. 2025 is bringing a lot of long-term or chronic change to many of us. Whether you're dealing with the aftermath of natural disaster like the LA fires, or political unrest, or ongoing personal upheaval, chronic change can leave you feeling unsettled and powerless. We can even feel this way when a disaster or situation is not directly affecting us. Either it's a trigger that unmoors us, or it can evoke a fear response or emotional overwhelm simply by hearing about it or watching it. How can we cope with it and even embrace it while still honoring the people and the places and experiences that have shaped us? If you're in the middle of a life transition, uprooted by a turn of events, or emotional mind-bending change, this episode is for you. We'll discuss why change is so hard, ways to cope with it, how to adapt to unwanted changes, and most importantly, how to move forward while honoring your past. If you're living through a season of unrelenting change, know that there is relief. So let's dive in. Well, actually, before we start, I want to remind you to like and subscribe depending upon your platform. It really means a lot, and it helps get the word out to everyone else. Let's dive into it. Why change feels difficult. Change, especially when it's forced upon us, shakes the very foundation of our sense of stability. Humans are creatures of habit. We crave routine, predictability, and control. When chronic change occurs, whether from fires, war, political upheaval, or some other personal or world or societal crisis, it disrupts those foundations. This can create feelings of anxiety, grief, even anger as we struggle to reconcile the life we once knew with this new uncertain present moment. And here's a hard truth: resisting change only intensifies the emotional toil. Clinging to the idea of what was can keep us stuck emotionally and physically. But here's a hopeful truth: by working with change, even unwanted change, we can find ways to build strength and meaning. I want to talk about living with chronic change and the cost of resistance just a little bit, because it's so important. So much of us, when we are faced with a change we aren't ready for, or we even know it's coming, but it's finally become a reality, we tend to resist it first. And that creates a lot of anger, closeness, sadness, frustration, anxiety, health concerns. All types of things can spin off of this resistance to the change, which is natural. So what are some of the costs? When change is prolonged, in the case of an ongoing crisis or something that's creating upheaval in your life, it can easily fall into patterns of resistance. But resisting chronic change has a cost. It can create emotional burnout. Holding on to what can't be controlled drains your energy, intensifies your feelings of helplessness, and can leave you feeling just completely overwhelmed. And when you get overwhelmed, you can't move forward. You kind of get a feeling like you're starting to drown a little bit in it. It becomes hopeless. There's a loss of an opportunity for growth. By staying stuck in the past, you miss opportunities to adapt, heal, find new paths to move forward. Sometimes you don't progress with the times or the way the society is choosing to move forward. And that can also make you feel isolated because everyone else is moving forward, but you are not. You're standing your ground in where everyone was. And that can be very isolating and lonely. Fractured relationships are another consequence. Isolation or withdrawing from loved ones can create emotional distance, leaving you feeling even more alone. Also, the emotions and the reactions around standing your ground and being stuck and refusing to flow with the change can create a lot of anxiety, anger, stubbornness, all these kinds of ways of being that aren't really nourishing to your relationships at all. And when you start being like that, If the people that you love are also experiencing the change, they might feel like they just can't handle your drama or anxiety or anger or stubbornness because they're going through it too, and they can't pick up your stuckness right now. It's an emotional toll. Resistance leads to, as I said, prolonged stress, anxiety, even depression. Instead of processing what happened, we stay in this heightened state of tension, which just spins off into all these other things, including physical toll on your body. People can experience heart problems, chronic fatigue. You can experience a loss of connection. Resisting change can cause isolation, as I said, and it may feel harder to reach out to others for support or to accept new circumstances. When you lose connection, you kind of lose this sense of reality and you start making the reality up on your own, which can become more paranoid than it actually is. And it makes it harder for you to reach out for support and to garner what you need to make any shifts or changes to get back into a place of homeostasis and feeling positive. And another big thing is stagnation. When you resist change, you lose opportunities to grow and adapt and find new ways to thrive. It's like standing in quicksand, and the more you fight, the deeper you sink. So fighting against it, you just stay in this place that you were when the change happened. And the longer you stay there, the harder it is to expand out again. And a lot of people have then moved on if this is a change that is experienced by more than just you. The people who also experienced at the same time have moved on and past and beyond where you are. And that support system that you would have had of everyone going through it together is now shifted into something else where you're catching up. And if you have feelings of worthlessness or unsureness, or you don't have good self-esteem or self-love, that can warp into reinforcing that negative self-talk that you aren't good enough, that you're stupid, that there's something wrong with you because everybody's moved forward and you haven't. And now you've lost that support group of going through it together. Because when you go through it together, it reinforces that we're all in this together. You're not alone. We're all working through it. We're all going to make mistakes and we can help one another out. And you miss that opportunity. Now, this isn't to say you should just accept everything that happens. Far from it. You're allowed to grieve, to feel anger, and to acknowledge the unfairness of your situation. Sure. And you're allowed to have those feelings as long as you need to have those feelings. But ultimately, the key to surviving chronic change is learning how to live within it rather than fight against it. What happens when you shift to meet change? Adapting to change doesn't mean giving up or condoning what's happening. It means finding ways to live meaningfully despite the challenges that you're facing. Emotional resilience can be one of the positive outcomes. You become more equipped to handle the ups and downs of life. You can see them for what they are and you can work through them, and you just have more resilience. And let me tell you, resilience is a superpower. It's so important. Life is long and a lot of things happen to you throughout that time frame. Having resilience is key to moving forward and having a life that you want. New opportunities are another thing that can present themselves during change. Adapting allows you to see possibilities you might otherwise miss, even in difficult times. And I can certainly say that that is true for me. I was laid off from a position and it was really, really hard. I'm also struggling with a relationship that I'm trying to let go of and figuring out who I am and where I am in the world. And a job presented itself to me in a different package. I applied for it. I ended up getting the job, but they redid the job description to better suit my skills and offered me a living situation and other things. And so through this just despair I was having about this space in my life opened up a opportunity that I would have never pursued otherwise. So that's just an example of new opportunities that can come your way during change. When I was in the Thomas Fire, I met so many people that I would never have met before had we not been all coming together as a community to help each other find shelter for their animals, get food, get clothing, etc. In those times of chronic crisis change, there's opportunities on these micro levels that you can really tap into and can make your life so rich, far beyond the change that you're experiencing in the moment. It's those stronger connections. By sharing your journey and seeking help, you can forge deeper bonds with others. You want to make sure that those bonds are healthy. You're not gravitating to people who you realize might hurt you, but you're desperately clinging to folks. Sometimes we all desperately cling, and that's totally okay. But take a moment to pick where you're going to do that rather than just latching on to the first thing that comes your way. Because let's face it, fortunately, people are opportunistic and they might take advantage of folks in crisis. And another big thing, a wonderful thing you get from change is an opportunity for growth. Every time you adapt to change, you strengthen your abilities to navigate the future challenges that come up. I really can't say this enough. I know I've kind of snuck it in different places thus far, but I really want you to know that every change, as horrible as it is in the moment, as dire as it is in the moment, as heartbreaking and devastating, and no words for how hard the change is to navigate, when you start moving through it, you experience this growth and depth you wouldn't have had before. Most certainly, had I not been in an abusive relationship in my 20s, I would not have walked away with a compassionate heart that understands where others are coming from on a way I would have never understood otherwise. And I cherish that as a gift. A lot of people come forward and talk to me about their problems just randomly. And I think a lot of that has to do with that trauma I experienced in that relationship. The excruciating change to escape it, get out of it, reinvent myself, learn who I am, and start moving forward again. It was one of the hardest experiences I had in my life. And had I not had that change, I wouldn't have all the blessings from it, which happened to be so vast and so many, and I am so grateful for it now. And speaking of gratitude, I just want to throw that in there and to always have a presence of gratitude in your life, no matter where you are. I know it's really hard when you're looking at your home that's just burned to the ground and your neighborhood that's also burned to the ground and your child's school that no longer exists and you don't have shoes. It's so hard to find moments of gratitude. But when someone hands you a bottle of water, you can be grateful. You can look around at your loved ones who are safe and be grateful. You can always find something, however small, but you don't have to do it right away. You can be upset, be angry, grieve, be in a panic, all those things that happen that are part of a really challenging change. But don't forget, as you're moving through it in the days, to just find small things you can be thankful for. I saw this YouTube video of this guy that was reunited with his dog after the LA fires, and it was it was so wonderful just how thankful he was. And it was very, very emotional. And I felt like that probably just shifted his whole perspective on this extreme change he went through of losing absolutely everything. But when his dog came running up, wow, for a moment there, nothing else mattered. So, what are some coping strategies for chronic change? Let's explore how to work with chronic change rather than work against it. I said that before, and you're probably thinking, how in the world do you do that? Well, let's talk about a few ways. Build a grounding routine. When the world feels chaotic, create small, predictable rituals that can provide stability. This is especially true if you have small children who are weathering this change with you, or really anybody who's weathering this change with you. To have some predictable rituals or tasks that you do. This might look like starting your day with deep breathing, or journaling, or taking a walk, or it might be something like always having breakfast, always having coffee, going to the same place for food every day. It might be spending a couple minutes talking with your group about what you're thankful for, or how is your day, or what's next, or what are your worries, or what are your concerns. Really just grounding in things that everyone can count on are going to happen every single day, especially a major crisis. What things can you do every day that are just known? You're going to do it. If other people are around you, other people and yourself are going to do it every day. These things always happen. Think back to you always had breakfast, lunch, dinner, these little habits you had throughout the day that you did. Try to invent some of those in this new space you're finding yourself in. These habits can anchor you amid uncertainty in ways you never ever expected. They can create a calm moment before you go back out into the storm. Practice self-expression. When change feels heavy, breathing, meditation, journaling become invaluable tools. Breathing exercises that can help calm your nervous system and give you clarity in moments of overwhelm. Meditation just creates a space to process the emotions without judgment. I do this all the time for everything. I meditate on everything, even when I'm going to move now, as I said, where my furniture might go, to feel grounded in this new space, to feel like, yes, this new space will be my home. Use this space. And if you have children or other people in your life that are experiencing the change, you can all do it together. Use a space of 20 minutes to imagine what the new space will be like, what this new situation might be like, what moving forward looks like. And it kind of helps you get a game plan together too for moving forward through the change. Journaling offers a safe place to explore your thoughts, identify patterns, and release what no longer serves. It's also a good place to make lists, to figure out your goals, to create mini goals up to your goal, to organize yourself in what's first, second, and third, because the upheaval makes it challenging to remember what you need to do and what the steps you need to take are. And so even if your journaling is lists of what needs to be done and any resistance you're having to doing those things because you're in a state of emotional overwhelm, don't forget that. There's a lot going on, and moving forward can sometimes be so challenging because you're just completely overwhelmed with how daunting everything is. Another thing is find community support. This can really help you as you're moving through change. Isolation can intensify feelings of helplessness. Seek out people who understand your situation. Maybe it's a support group, a trusted friend, or even online communities. Sharing your experiences can remind you that you're not alone. This is really, really important. This just happened in my journaling group last night. I have a meetup journaling group that meets once a month. If you're interested, please join. I'd love to have you there. And it was a small, safe space for people to really talk about what they're grieving from 2024. And it was very wonderful how everyone just supported each other. And for a moment, people were not alone in their worries and their struggles. And finding that space is really, really important because once you start feeling alone and isolated, everything becomes so much harder. And your internal voice, if you're somebody who has a lot of negative self-talk, that will really kick into high gear and make it even harder to take those first steps forward. Another thing you can do is just focus on the present moment. Chronic change often overwhelms because we are consumed by worries about the future and the grief about what we've lost. Practicing mindfulness can really help you to just focus on the present. In this moment, here and now, you are safe. You are alive. Just concentrate on each moment. Even if you project it a little bit into the future, for the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to sit here and drink this coffee and not do anything, whatever it might be. Just focus on the present moment, not about what happened yesterday or the future and what that's going to look like. Honestly, you don't know what the future is going to look like. So putting a lot of energy and stress and worry and anxiety into your fears about the future aren't really going to help you move forward. And I know that's really hard. And of course, you are going to have fear about the future. That's completely okay. You just have to keep it in balance with the ways you're moving forward. And that brings me to something that's really important. Acknowledge and grieve. Chronic change involves layers of loss. It's important to give yourself permission to grieve what's gone. This isn't a weakness. It's part of the healing process. And grief looks different for everybody. And I want to tell you here that if people start giving you toxic positivity, you talked about this in our group last night too, like, oh, just get over it. It's not that bad. You don't need that. You can tell them, I don't need that right now, or you can walk away, or you can hang up, or whatever it is. It is okay for you to grieve. It isn't a weakness. It's part of the process. It's okay to be angry. It's part of the process. Just know you don't want to stay there in the total weight of it, right? My parents passed away a couple of years ago, and it's still heavy. I still have grief, but it's not like it was in those first few months and years. It's more manageable now and it comes in waves. But had I not had the opportunity to really be in the depths of it for as long as I needed to be in the depths of it, I don't think I would have been able to come out on the other side in a way that I feel good about. You'll probably grieve a few things for your whole life, but it won't be your life. It will just be something that you think about now and again, or that you carry around with you in a space of beauty in a way. That kind of grief can become beauty, a tribute, something else. But in the moment when it first happens, it's okay to experience that. It's not weak, it's part of the process. And don't let other people tell you otherwise. This is a big one. Practice radical self-compassion. Living with chronic change is hard. Remind yourself that it's okay to be overwhelmed. Be kind to yourself as you would a dear friend going through the same thing. That is super important. Give yourself radical self-compassion, the same compassion you would give someone you know who's going through the same thing. Maybe even more compassion, because let's face it, we've never been told how to help others through a crisis or a major change. And we fumble through that. We aren't as kind to people as we would like to be. We have unrealistic expectations about what the people should be doing. And this is a chance to really give yourself some compassion and kindness and patience and love. Focus on small wins. When facing massive upheaval, break things into just manageable little steps or chunks. Celebrate your small victories every time they happen, like completing a task or making time for self-care. Celebrate it. These wins build momentum and confidence so you can go to the next thing. They kind of make you feel like, okay, I can do this. Okay, I did that. I can do this. Let me celebrate it. Especially in times of crisis, you really want to be able to be resilient. And part of building that resiliency is to break things down into small steps, complete them, and then celebrate them because you want to bring some happiness and joy back into your life as a regular. So you're not in the crisis all the time. And it's okay if you've been through a really horrible crisis and you're grieving, but you laugh or you find joy or you escape it for a moment. Totally okay. Again, it's all about balance. Acknowledge your feelings. It's okay if you're scared or sad or even angry about the change. Suppressing the emotions can only make them grow louder. Instead, allow yourself to feel the process and what's coming up for you. Journaling, talking to a trusted friend, or seeking therapy can help, but really just acknowledge how you feel about it. Journaling is great here for this. You can just put it all down on the page. A lot of times when you're free flow writing, things come up you didn't even know, and you can put that on the page. And sometimes the release is incredible with journaling. Here's another thing you can do is focus on what you can control. Change often makes us feel powerless, but there's always something within your control. It might be your mindset, your daily routine, how you respond to a situation. Focusing on these small, actionable steps can help you regain your stability. Lean on your support system. You don't have to go through the change alone. Reach out to friends and family, community who understands what you're experiencing. Sometimes just having someone listen can make all the difference. And here's one I almost always say about everything is to practice self-care. Change is emotionally taxing. So it's important to prioritize rest, nourishment, activities that bring you joy, to find that balance. Even a simple walk or a few minutes of deep breathing can ground you and give you space to start moving forward again. And if you're not taking care of yourself, it'll be hard for you to take care of others and all the things you need to do. It's just like that thing when you get on the plane of put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist others. It's important. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to figure everything out all at once. Focus on the next step that's right in front of you rather than trying to map out the entire journey. A lot of times, change has a wild ride to it. And you just want to focus on what the next step is, what the next thing is. It's kind of similar to what I was talking about find some mindfulness, only be in the moment. You can have an idea of where you want to be at the end, but don't get caught up in every little portion of it. Like if you're starting to freak out about things that are a little bit too far in the future, back up and think, what am I doing today? What is my one step today? Here's a really important one. During most of change, redefine what quote unquote home means to you. For those displaced by disasters, unrest, or other upheaval, the concept of home can feel lost. And that's your base, that's your sanctuary, that's your grounding situation. So try to redefine it. Home doesn't have to be a physical place. It can be a feeling of safety, a connection to loved ones, or even a daily practice that grounds you. It can be your own beliefs. It can be who you are as a person. It can be your favorite shoes. Whatever home means to you, try to redefine it so that it is something that you can have right now in this moment as you're redefining what a more permanent home might be. And sometimes this is really great because then you carry it on with you, and home becomes not your physical space, but the people around you or your own beliefs. And another really big thing that helps you through challenging times is to help others. Give some joy and gratitude and help to others. Volunteer to help out where you can. Find meaning in the chaos. Definitely helping others helps you find meaning, and it strengthens your community bonds, and it helps you not feel isolated. It takes your mind off your overwhelm for a while because you have to concentrate on helping others. Shared experiences remind you that you're not alone and can provide emotional validation. You want to make sure with helping others, it's also in balance, though. You don't swing way over to the other side and are helping others so much, you're not really healing yourself. Helping others is not about avoiding your own work you have to do. This is about gratitude, help, care for your community, love, kindness, joy, laughter. It's about taking your mind off your own worries for a little bit. It's about reminding you that you're not alone. It's helping reinforce positive internal dialogue. There's so many things, but you have to keep it in balance. I want to talk a little bit about embracing and honoring change. I know, embracing and honoring, I'm sure you all want to tell me off, but adapting the change doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means carrying it with you in ways that it serves your future. That's what I'm talking about. Embrace change. Reframe what you think about it as a moment for growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? I know I say this all the time, and sometimes people get really mad because they don't want this lesson, but life's handed it to you. You can either create this as you're a victim and become overwhelmed and not be able to move forward, or you can reframe it as growth. It isn't something that happened to you because the universe is mad at you or nobody likes you or any of those things. Reframe that negative self-talk about the change into a growth potential. Create new traditions. Start small rituals, like I said, that reflect your current circumstances, like a gratitude practice or weekly family check-ins, anything else you can think of. Maybe during this tragedy, you start doing yoga just to ground yourself in the mornings because you feel ungrounded. Great. Whatever works for you. And I really want to talk about honoring the past. Celebrate what was. Reflect on the memories that were good, the lessons that shaped you. Create a scrapbook if you need to. Write a letter to yourself, or simply take time to sit down and be with those memories. Celebrate what was. If you have children, give them the space to really talk about what was, to grieve what was, and to celebrate what was. But also to be able to say, although that was yesterday, we can bring some of that celebration into today. Take the best forward. The past is never truly left behind. It lives in your values and your lessons and your strength as you carry forward. Of course, some things in the past you don't want to carry forward so much, and that's great to let those things go, and you should let those things go. You don't want to live in this moment of severe panic and heightened alert. You need to let that go, but you can live in, like I said, leaving an abusive relationship really taught me a lot of beautiful lessons that I carry forward. I don't carry forward the horrific, agonizing, horrible relationship that I was in, or any of those ways of being that I was in, or beating myself up by looking at it in hindsight. I carry forward the beautiful things I could get from that relationship, which were abundant. So taking the best forward is really, really important. Adapting to unwelcome change. Unwelcome change is like chronic crisis, can feel impossible to accept. But here's a reality. The longer you resist it, the harder it becomes to move forward. Adapting doesn't mean condoning or liking the change. It just means finding ways to live meaningful in despite of it. Recognize that you have the power to respond, even if the situation feels out of your control. You do have the power to respond. You do have the power to do things in small ways. You do have the power to step forward. Focus on habits that ground you, like I said, daily gratitude or mindfulness, whatever it might be, having coffee at 8 a.m. You decide. Remember that even the darkest times don't last forever. This too will pass, as they say. Some final thoughts on a mindfulness practice. Let's take a moment to pause. If you're somewhere safe, join me for a brief mindful practice. Here we go. Take a deep breath in to the count of 4. And let it out for the count of 6. Think about a recent change in your life. What emotions come up for you? Let them surface without judgment. If it's fear, let it surface, but don't judge it. If it's anger, whatever it is, just let it surface. With your next breath, say to yourself, I am capable of adapting. I am strong enough to face this. I am capable of adapting. I am strong enough to face this. I am capable of adapting. I am strong enough to face this. I love myself. I'm worth moving through this change. Slowly return your focus to the present moment. And remember, you don't have to navigate change perfectly. Progress is not perfection. That's the goal. There is no such thing as perfection. You're just working on moving forward through all of this upheaval. So that's a little mindfulness practice you can take with yourself when you feel like it's overwhelming. I do this all the time before a presentation, before I have to talk to somebody I don't know. All the time I use this. A simple breathe in to the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 6. I might say some affirmations to myself depending on what it is. And I think about the emotions that come up. I let them surface without judgment. And then I say some positive things to myself that help me be kind, compassionate, and caring to myself. And then I return slowly to the present moment and go on with my day. And this really helps. Breathing really helps when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Every time you start to feel overwhelmed, just take a moment for yourself. It doesn't take long, as you saw. So I want to thank you for joining I Care About You. Change is hard, but it's also a doorway to growth, even when it feels unwelcome. Remember to honor your past, embrace your future, and lean into the support all around you. For more information about working with dark times, grief, hopelessness, check out my book, Reasons to Live. I'll put a link in the description. The book offers many ways to work through emotional overwhelm, dark time, death of loved ones, feelings of grief, and how to help others and have those conversations. Super, super important to know how to help others. It's worth getting the book just for that section, to just have some language, some talking points, some understanding of how to meet a person in crisis. And don't forget, you're not alone. You have the strength to embrace what's ahead, one step at a time. You're not powerless, even though it might feel like it sometimes. Every small step you take, whether it's creating a grounding routine, seeking support, or simply taking a deep breath, it's a step towards resilience. Adapting to change doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means honoring it while finding ways to move forward. You can have the strength to carry both your grief and your hope at the same time. And I'm here to remind you, as always, that I care about you and I support you and I love you. So thank you for joining me in this episode of I Care About You. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it with somebody who might need the encouragement. And as always, take good care of yourself. You deserve it.